Alright, it's now time for the Bruiser section of the Jungle tier list. Anyways, for number one is Volibear. Why Volibear? Well, because he's got some of those tank aspects that are great. You know, the peeling, the semi-initiation, the whole great itemization, super built-in tankiness. Well, not super built-in, it's just his passive is great. And, you know, a lot of damage with no items. Like, his damage is probably the highest out of all the bruisers right now. Kind of on par with Xin Zhao. It's ridiculous, especially with his ultimate. So, for being such a fat-ass character, big and whatnot, and only having to build tanky, and very cheap tanky, mind you, that's very important, he can build, he'll deal tons and tons of damage. Hell, he does the whole thing where he only has to build like Bulwark and a Locket, and then, you know, free up a support to build whatever the hell they want, and he'll still never die and still deal a lot of fucking damage. So he's pretty much the go-to bruiser at the moment, and pretty goddamn overpowered in that sense. Next one is, you know, Xin Zhao. It's kind of the same issue with as Volibear. It's kind of the same thing as Volibear, except his tankiness is on his ultimate, and he's tankier than Volibear thanks to his ultimate. His initiation, while kind of wonky at best, and though still pretty good, gives him that edge over Volibear. Where he doesn't succeed in his, you know, in the damage department. He does good damage, like, don't get me wrong, he does a lot of damage, but Volibear ends up beating him in that department, at least in more AoE-esque damage and more AoE damage. AoE damage, Volibear beats him without items or whatever, and Xin Zhao needs just a bit more items compared to Volibear in order to do things, and Volibear has more reliable crowd control. The knockup is good and all, but it still requires him to have, you know, knock someone up, hit somebody 3 times. Still, it's really good. That's why he's number 2 spot. He's better than everybody else kind of that's coming. He's a really strong bruiser. Next one is Bruiser Jarvan. I don't really want to talk about him a lot because I always say the same damn thing regardless of whatever he is. Tons of utility, good ass damage, tanky motherfucker, great initiator. That's all great in utility. It's like he's, again, the embodiment of the perfect kind of jungler with some weaknesses in some areas, but not enough to cripple him. So, again, good damage, not as good as Volibear or Xin Zhao. Great initiation, CC, whatever, for a bruiser. Build 1 damage item, build tank items, go to town, people. Vi, whatever the hell you want to call her. She's the next one in line. She's kind of taking the place of Skarner in terms of how you do those inescapable ganks. You know, click R, they can't do shit anymore. Kill them, dunk them. Great speed, great sustain, just, you know, knocks the crap out of the jungle. Comparison to the other characters, she does do a lot of damage, but more in, you know, if somebody sticks around and brawls out with her. And the weakness is that it's kind of a one target. Sure, the E does AoE ding, and the Q has kind of a small AoE, but it's not gonna happen a lot of the time. Her tankiness comes from her passive, and she did get nerfed. She got nerfed quite a bit, so she got lowered. She's still a great bruiser. She still will kill any fucking squishy that like tries to move. She still will be annoying to kill, but she's more of a all-in dunk someone and probably, you know, tank the next barrage. Her usefulness is all kind of tied into her ultimate at this moment, though. She still can go in Q and punch somebody. She's just kind of a weaker Volibear, so to speak, in my opinion. Next is Hecarim. Ugly ass thing I have here, but couldn't find any more fan art. I already kind of explained it. Explained what Hecarim does. He just does a whole lot of fucking damage for such a tanky character. Hecarim, Volibear still has him beat, sure, but Hecarim has his whole, you know, press stuff, you never fucking die ever kind of thing going for him. So in certain situations, he'll never die, and as the fight goes on, he'll do a ridiculous amount of damage with his Q. So, like, high-ass damage bruiser, there you go, that never dies. Next one is not Volibear, what the fuck am I talking about? Udyr, the other bear. Udyr got recently buffed, changed around, and yeah, it made him a lot more mobile, a lot more capable of dealing his damage, especially because his Phoenix change, his Tiger change, haven't really tested it much. But essentially what Udyr does right now is the same thing as he did before, just a bit better. Like, he'll run around, catch anybody, spare slap them, and then just start burning them with Phoenix. More burst damage, much more damage, still high survivability. The guy doesn't fucking die. I mean, he still gets kited like a bitch versus certain team comps, but when it comes to jungle and jungle duels and skirmishes and all that good stuff, the guy just doesn't fucking die. He chases somebody, you know, like he in little tiny fights, he'll pretty much be the one you want next to you, or by your side. And the next one by the fan art you can see is Nocturne, best fan art of all time. So Nocturne as a bruiser. So here's the issues with Nocturne. He doesn't have great peeling. His little fear crap is hardly reliable. His initiation is kind of suicidal for the most part, and he's got a lot of weaknesses. However, his damage is very high, regardless of what the hell you build on him. Kind of like a tank, but doesn't have enough things to make him into a tank. His item requirement is insanely steep, though. Luckily, he farms very fast, and he can use almost any offensive items, from Trinity Force to Bloodthirster to, Frozen Mallet build with, and eventually building into Atmos Edge. He's one of those characters. He can build any offensive thing and be a murder machine. So, as a bruiser he can just build tanky items and still deal a lot of damage. Sure, his peeling sucks. Sure, he's got issues with certain team comps, but overall, and he's very expensive, but overall, he is a bruiser you go if you want to just destroy people, even the front line, with pure damage. Next one is just one of my own favorites, is Darius. I mean, Darius as a bruiser is kind of basic, same thing as in lane. His mobility's ass. He can't initiate. His peeling is alright. It's basic. He's got issues he's got a lot of issues that other bruisers don't really have from the jungle, but his gold requirement is very low. I mean, his damage, quote unquote, scales off cooldown reduction. The more he uses it, the better it gets, and then guts him with the ultimate. That's the good thing is, for a bruiser jungler, for a bruiser and for just a bruiser, his damage is really fucking good, especially early game, and he doesn't require much items in order to take advantage. Though if he builds items, he does a lot more. So as a jungler, he can be one of those few jungle bruisers that can actually carry the game. So, build tanky items or some damage items, go in, kill people. Like, it doesn't matter how fucking tanky they are, stack bleeds on them and then gut them. He is one of the best to use to carry, despite his weaknesses. Next one is Nasus. Again, Nasus, so don't worry. Jungle Nasus as a bruiser isn't that great because you're not going to farm your Q. You're relying more on your E and your W to provide the utility for your team, and then you bust out your ultimate with all those fucking amazing free stats and go crazy. And not to say he's not good. I mean, he's got great stats from his ultimate. He pretty much punishes tank characters just by standing on top of them, and he gets a lot of free AD. So yeah, he's very cost effective as a bruiser too, but not as good as a support role kind of thing. Next is Riven. Riven as a bruiser works the same way, though fighter Riven is kind of cooler, but I'll explain that later. Riven, again, free stats on her ultimate, very mobile, has crowd control, minor crowd control, and by minor I mean small area crowd control, but still good. Burst damage, good sustained damage. She's a great fighter, all in kind of fighter, bruiser, all that good stuff. AD caster too, you can consider her that. The problem with Jungle Riven though is that she's kind of like a Shaco kind of character. And where, if she doesn't do well, she kind of falls apart completely and she becomes dead weight. And it's really hard to recover with her. If she does well, though, she just fucking stomps. She's one of those kinds of characters and somebody that can actually potentially carry the game. So she works, as a gamble pick for the lower elos. So consider that. But yeah, basically put, she's a really strong damage dealer, but is a very risky one. Kind of all over the place with stats. Next one is Wukong. If you want a C student, there's Wukong. He's kind of average in everything. He sucks at sustain really, really badly. His health is awful in the jungle, and even if you buy lifesteal, it's gonna be awful. Like his health sustain is terrible. However, as a bruiser, he's got good damage. His builds are good. He's got natural tankiness. from his passive. He's got his W, which is ridiculously stupid in some situations, and it's kind of funny. And the best part is he can pseudo-initiate with his ultimate, or just full-on initiate. Goes E, initiate team, blah. That's more to say than a lot of characters. So he's just an average jungler with some great aspects, like some unique ones. Next one is Mundo. Everybody loves Mundo, but he's very, very average as a bruiser nowadays. I mean, his best trait as a jungler and as a bruiser is that his item build is so cost effective. He triple dips into the shit out of it. So it's just buy health, you get damage, you get you get damage, you get survivability, you get your abilities become amplified because of it. So he triple dips into that. So basically he's so easy to build and he's so cost effective with his build. That's what makes him great. But other than that, he's kind of nothing special anymore. It's just fast and whatever. Jax is another character, another bruiser jungler that a lot of people have mixed feelings about. I don't like him that much because he's very expensive. And as a jungler, he needs a lot of items, and he's not that great of a farmer until at least level 6. He kind of picks up, and he's again one of those Sasheko kind of deals in which he falls hard, and if he does well, he snowballs out of control. So again, he's a gamble, but there are a lot of other champions that are much less risky than Jax. So Jax is just not recommended for most cases or all cases.